Hello everyone and welcome to SwitchUp. Today we've got our weekly sales video for you where we'll see if we can find some gems on the eShop that are available for a good price. Now we're going to look at games across all regions. Not every game will be on sale in every region, that's just the nature of the beast I'm afraid. If you look at the price for each game, if it says NA next to your region, then of course it's not on sale for you. I'm going to put a bit of a spin on it this week, and I've tried to choose games for the most part that are very hard to find for one reason or another in physical form. So even if you are a physical collector like myself, this might still be a good time to pick these particular games up. There's going to be a few honourable mentions. These are games that are cheap as it is but are now stupid cheap and well worth picking up for a quick 10 minutes of play every so often, as well as a few games to avoid at the end. So make sure you stick around for those. We still have a couple of copies of Children of Mortar to give away. The names of the winners of last week's copies will be in the top pinned comment, so please do have a look there. Congratulations to those of you who did win, and if you want to be in for a chance of winning this week, just stick a comment down in the comments section. Will that lead to another 749 comments that just say normal comment? Let's find out. Okay, the first game then is a game called Aloha Rockaways Fresh, which is a series that's been around for a while. I think in fact it goes all the way back to the Super Famicom, and there's been games on the PlayStation and other consoles since. It's basically a platformer where you play as a young girl who's a chef, and she has to traverse certain levels using a fishing rod, and it's a physics based platformer whereby you must use the fishing rod to pull yourself up to greater heights or lower yourself down, etc. And it's actually a really interesting premise. It's currently 50% off, and this was published by Namco in the US but didn't get any sort of physical version in Europe. Here in the UK I've seen it on eBay going for about £26, so it's not the most expensive game to get hold of if you do want that physical version, but at this sale price it might be worth picking up. Next is one of my favourite games on the Switch. This one did receive a physical release worldwide, so it's not on here for that. It's just too good a game not to include, and that's Horizon Chase Turbo, which is 75% off, albeit I think this one is only for the US. This is a classic arcade racer in the vein of things like Cruising USA, Outrun to a lesser extent, but it was actually inspired more so by a game on the Super Nintendo called Top Gear. I've spent so much time on this game chasing high scores on the online leaderboards, or just racing for fun, and of course it has local multiplayer as well, certainly for 2 players, potentially for 4, I can't remember. For $6, this is well worth it. The next game then is Mega Man 11, of course from Capcom, and this is currently 50% off. Now a new Mega Man game had been something that people had been asking for so long, since the Mega Man 10 game which came out on WiiWare released quite a few years ago. Both Mega Man 9 and 10 were the first releases in a while, both were on WiiWare, and they both used a retro art style, and of course 11 went for a brand new updated look. I know some people didn't care for the style as much, but to be fair it does look lovely in motion and kind of has a 3D model look but with cel shaded elements at times as well, especially on some of the bosses. This is another game that didn't receive a physical release in Europe for some reason. Well, I know the reason, Capcom. So again it might be the time to pick it up with 50% off. If you're not so much into this game, some of the legacy collections are also on sale, so they might be for you instead. But either way, it's Mega Man, you can't really go wrong. The next game I'm going to pick is Resident Evil Revelations. All of the Resident Evil games are on sale. I'm going for this one, A because it's the joint cheapest of the lot, and B because for me it's the best game in the series to take the classic old games, take the newer style where they became more action oriented, and merge them together. This game does that fantastically well. The atmosphere harkens back to the earlier entries, with you for the most part stuck on an abandoned cruise liner and playing as Jill Valentine, and it's a very well crafted game. I don't believe these are on sale in the US unfortunately, and being Capcom again, this is another game that didn't get a physical release in Europe. Next one then, I think this one is just for the US as far as I could see. This is a 2-in-1 bundle and it's the Oniken and Odalus games. These came out last year I believe it was, and are retro inspired platformers. One is very much in the vein of something like Ninja Gaiden, with a lot of hacking and slashing and quick movements accompanying the platforming, whereas the other one plays a bit more like something like Castlevania, a much slower pace, a lot of item collecting to be done, and it's not quite as linear. These did get a physical release, but I believe it was via Play Asia, so again, quite hard to come by these days, and at 75% off, so $4.99 for 2 games, don't forget, this is a very good price. The next game is Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, which is 40% off. Now this comes in 2 forms. You have the basic edition, which is going for £10.79, or again your regional equivalent, or you have the complete edition with all the DLC, which is still 40% off, but obviously at a higher price point. Now I've never watched Power Rangers. For me as a kid it was Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles and Thundercats, but I do love fighting games, and this one is very good. It's one of those games that screams at you that it shouldn't be that good, but they've done a great job with the license. This game was picked up by Limited Run Games, so is a very difficult one to get physically. It's one I've been trying to get for a while and just can't find for a decent price. So at this sale price, if you are interested in fighting games at all, or you do like the Power Rangers, it may well be one to have a look at. Next we have the Namco Museum Arcade Pack, which is at 63% off. This combines the Namco Museum game package along with Pac-Man Championship Edition 2, both of which are fantastic games. Namco Museum includes classics such as Pac-Man and Galaga, as well as a real hidden gem in Tank Force, but also has more fleshed out experiences such as Splatterhouse and Rolling Thunder. And Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 is an absolutely amazing updated version of the classic Pac-Man formula. I don't believe this one was in the US, but at £12.20, this is a cracking price. This one is readily available in a physical form, but again it was just such a good price, I had to highlight it. And then we have Akami, which is selling for 50% off, or £7.99 here in the UK. Akami is a game that came out on the PlayStation 2 many years ago now, and was then brought to the Wii, which is where I first played it, before being ported to modern consoles. Funnily enough, I've been playing this game recently. I do have the physical version, although it didn't receive a release outside of Asia, so this is one I imported. You play as a goddess in the form of a wolf, who is trying to banish evil from the land, and it's all presented in a beautiful hand-painted style. It's a lovely game and it holds up well to this day. As I say, I've been playing it recently. One thing I will say is the camera controls are a little off. Whether you play with them standard or inverted, they never feel quite right, which I never noticed back in the day. But for this price you're getting a good 25-30 hours worth of content for your money. Okay, some very quick honourable mentions now, the first of which is a game called Night Terrors, which is 50% off, which brings it down to between £1 to £2, dollar, euro, which is a fantastic price. It's basically an endless runner with Spectrum type graphics, but it's incredibly addictive. You have to jump and slash your way through levels, and you're not allowed to be hit or let more than 5 enemies, I believe it is, past you, otherwise you lose and have to start again. It has a few different game modes, and it's to this day one of the games I still return to the most on the Switch when I only have 5 or 10 minutes spare. Then we have Miniature, the story puzzle, which is 75% off, which puts it down to 89p here in the UK. This is a lovely game. I really enjoyed this. It's basically a puzzle game based around building dioramas. You have to put them in the correct order to recreate a particular scene. Whilst not particularly expensive usually anyway, it is very short, only about an hour long. But for this price, just to play something new and unique, I think it's worth it. Then we have Biolab Wars, which is again 50% off, and again under £1 over here in the UK, and this is basically a retro inspired run and gun, in the vein of something like Contra back on the NES. Even at its regular price, this is well worth it for a quick blast of action, but at this sale price, it's an absolute no-brainer. And finally, a game that's usually a little bit more expensive but has a huge 86% off, this is Blazing Beeks at £1.79. This is basically a roguelite in the vein of something like Enter the Gungeon, but it has a really unique premise whereby whenever you pick up a perk in a level, the game will actually make you weaker for the remainder of that level to see if you can survive. So it's a real risk reward. How greedy are you going to be? Are you going to pick up everything you find, or will that cost you your life? A very good game, especially at this sale price, dear me. Now we have 3 games to avoid, and these 3 most certainly deserve that accolade. The first game is called Go Fishing 3D. Now, I had the pleasure of reviewing this game, and I believe to this day it still has the lowest score on the channel. There'll be a link to that review in the top pinned comment. And even with 74% off, which puts it just over £1 here in the UK, do not buy this game. The graphics are terrible, the animation is laughable, the way you reel a fish in, the gameplay is practically non-existent, and the grammar is terrible as well, which is unforgivable. I would rather fish in a tank full of piranhas using my finger as bait than play this game again. Don't buy it. Next we have Vegas Party, which is 50% off, which puts it at just under £10 here in the UK. Now, I bought this game physically because I thought it was going to be similar to a game I loved on the Super Nintendo called Vegas Stakes. It's not. It's terrible. I mean terrible. It's embarrassingly bad. And at £10 still, on sale, is almost criminal. If you spend money on this game, you will feel like someone that has gone to Vegas and blown all of their money, only you don't have the added excitement of waking up the next morning next to someone you've married in Elvis's Chapel of Love. And finally we have Serial Offender Hollow, which seems to go on sale all the time, 90% off this one, just under £2. This is a first person horror game, and I played this quite early on when the Switch had just come out, and I got all the way to the end. At this point it wasn't the worst game ever, I'll give it its due. It was clunky, it was a bit of a chore, but it wasn't terrible. And then I got to the last 10 seconds, and I mean literally the last 10 seconds of the game. I had to press a button to complete the game. So all I had to do, press a switch, and the game crashed. So I reloaded it and did the last bit again, and it crashed again. And I tried again, and again. Then it got an update, and I tried again, and it wouldn't let me finish the game. This was the biggest waste of my life I've ever had, and that includes that pottery class I took a few years ago. Even at 90% off, don't buy it, buy something else. So there you have it, a few decent games to buy, a few cheap and cheerful ones, and some to absolutely avoid. By the time this video comes out, we might be on the verge of 100,000, we might have just hit it, who knows, we'll see. Either way, we appreciate your support very much, I truly mean that. Don't forget, leave a comment below for a chance to win a copy of Children of Malta. Comment on one of the games in this video, what's the worst game you've bought on the Switch, anything. Or just put normal comment if you must, it's up to you. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe, and until next time, happy gaming.